To understand and perceive another's thoughts, you need to master 3 essential techniques. These methods are foundational keys that, once perfected, can help you intuitively grasp what anyone is contemplating. To illustrate this idea, let me share a story from Buddhist teachings that reveals the art of mind reading. Long ago, in a small village, 2 brothers shared a modest life. The elder brother was blind, so he remained at home while the younger brother worked diligently as a farmer. Unfortunately, the crops they toiled over faced constant ruin due to animals invading their fields. Troubled by this persistent issue, the younger brother devised a plan. Why not enlist my blind brother's help, he thought. Since his blindness heightened his sense of hearing, the elder brother could sit in the field to scare off the animals merely by shouting at the noise they made. The younger brother built a small hut in the field and stationed his elder sibling there. "Brother," he explained, "whenever you hear animal sounds, just shout loudly. That will frighten them away and protect our crops." Trusting his younger brother's guidance, the blind man agreed and began his watchful duty. Whenever he heard rustling or movement, he would shout fiercely, effectively deterring the animals. One day, as usual, animals roamed nearby. A deer ran through the field, breaking the fence before darting away. Soon after, a king on a hunting expedition arrived in pursuit of that very deer. The monarch spotted the blind man sitting in the field and questioned him, "Have you seen a deer pass through here?" The blind brother replied calmly, "Your Majesty, I cannot see anything as I am blind. However, I can tell you that the animal you are chasing is not worth pursuing. You're wasting your time." Intrigued and slightly doubtful, the king pressed on, "How do you know this if you are blind? Are you lying to me?" The blind man responded with wisdom, "Your Majesty, the animal you are chasing is a pregnant doe. Kings do not chase vulnerable creatures carrying new life. It is unwise and unethical for someone of your stature to hunt such an animal. Therefore, I advise you to desist." Stunned by the blind man's confident assertion, the king grew curious and skeptical. How could a blind person possibly know such details, he wondered aloud. Determined to validate the claim, he instructed his commander, "Go and capture that animal alive. I must confirm if she is truly pregnant." The commander obeyed and eventually returned with news. The blind man's words were accurate. The animal was indeed a pregnant doe. The king was awestruck by this revelation. He marveled at the blind brother's extraordinary perception and resolved to uncover the secret behind his abilities. Summoning the blind man for answers, the king said, "I am uncertain whether your blindness is genuine or not, but your intellect is undeniable. Today, I have another question, one of grave personal importance, and I demand an honest answer." The king leaned closer. "Tell me," he asked bluntly, "is my wife faithful to me or not?" Hearing this, the blind brother paused before replying, "Your Majesty, what kind of question is this? You have shared many years together. Why has doubt crept into your mind now?" The king persisted firmly. "You must answer me truthfully, or face execution." Faced with such an ultimatum, the blind man agreed, but on one condition, "Your Majesty, if you wish for an answer, you must fulfill one request." "Speak," said the king. "What is your request?" "I must spend time alone with the queen," replied the blind man. The room fell silent as shock and anger crossed the king's face. Reluctantly, however, he accepted the condition. He instructed his aides to leave the queen alone with the blind man in a private chamber. Once alone together, the blind man expressed another curious demand, "I would like to touch you to discern my answer." Enraged by what she perceived as an insult and violation, the queen lashed out violently at him. She struck him with her hands and feet, unleashing her fury in an effort to drive him away. Bruised but determined, the blind man eventually escaped her wrath and returned to deliver his verdict. Facing the king once more, he announced without hesitation, "Your Majesty, your wife is unfaithful." Enraged by this declaration, yet still seeking confirmation, the king stormed toward the queen's chamber with sword drawn. Confronting her directly under threat of death, he demanded she confess whether she had been faithful or not. Cornered and overwhelmed by her guilt, the queen admitted shamefully, "Your Majesty, I cannot lie any longer, I have not been faithful." The king was overjoyed, realizing that everything the blind brother had predicted was true. Without delay, he approached the blind man and asked, "How did you know that my wife is unfaithful?" The blind brother replied, "Your Majesty, it's quite simple. I told your wife that I wanted to touch her, and instead of refusing calmly, she became so enraged that she started beating me. In her anger, she touched every part of my body during the act. Now tell me, how can a woman who cannot control her rage or behavior be faithful?" The king nodded thoughtfully and said, "You are indeed wise. All right, let us proceed. Answer one more question correctly, and I will let you go." The king then posed a new question, "Tell me, am I truly my father's son or someone else's?" The blind brother tilted his head and responded, "Your Majesty, why concern yourself with such a question? Regardless of whose child you are the ruler of this kingdom, and that is what matters most. Let this question go." But the king insisted, "No. I need to know the exact truth. This question torments me, and I cannot rest until I have an answer." The blind man sighed and said, "Your Majesty, I can provide the answer, but first promise me you will not become angry." The king agreed solemnly. "I give you my word, I shall not get angry." The blind brother then declared, "You are indeed your father's son, but you also live under the shadow of a miserly merchant." Startled by these words, the king rushed to his mother and demanded, "Mother, tell me the truth. Am I genuinely my father's son, or do I belong to someone else? If you don't tell me, I shall end my life right here." With tears in her eyes, the queen replied, "Son, you are your father's child, for certain, but it is also true that a miserly merchant's influence lingers over you." Hearing this confirmation, the king felt both relieved and intrigued. He quickly returned to the blind brother and questioned him further. "How did you come to know that I am under the shadow of a miserly merchant?" The blind man smiled gently and explained, "Your Majesty, you have asked me many questions, and I have answered each one accurately. If you were any other king, would have been showered with generosity by now. But not a single penny has reached my hands from you thus far. It was from this observation that I deduced your tendency toward stinginess." The king let out a hearty laugh. "You are truly remarkable. Ask for anything you desire, and it shall be yours. But tell me one thing, how do you discern what is right or wrong with such precision? How can you provide answers so accurate and deep?" The blind man replied humbly, "Your Majesty, though blind by nature, I have developed other ways to perceive the world. Had I the gift of sight, it would have been easy to interpret thoughts through facial expressions or body language, such as the eyes or lips, or by observing physical actions. However, being blind forces me to rely on other senses. When I wish to understand someone's mind, my approach is to assign them a task. Their method of completing it and their behavior throughout reveal what lies within their heart." The king was astonished. "Does this mean even I could learn to read another person's thoughts?" "Certainly," replied the blind brother with assurance. "But first, Your Majesty, you must train your own mind. Start by calming yourself and bringing your awareness fully into the present moment. For today, I will teach you 3 simple yet powerful methods to enhance this ability." The king leaned closer in anticipation as the blind man continued explaining, "To bring your mind into the present moment is crucial because understanding another's thoughts requires aligning yourself with their present state of being. If your mind dwells in past regrets or future anxieties, how can you discern what someone else is thinking in the now?" He paused before adding, "Thus, the first step is focus, true focus of the mind. Without it, clarity is impossible." Shall we proceed to the 3 methods? O king, the first method to truly understand others is by paying close attention to their eyes. When we speak to someone, the most important thing is to look them in the eyes. Despite their silence, eyes carry profound meaning. They don't speak words, yet they reveal much. If we learn to interpret the signals within a person's eyes, we can uncover their thoughts, emotions, and even their intentions. Though I no longer possess eyes myself, I mastered this skill many years ago under the guidance of the revered Gautama Buddha, who was my teacher and mentor. Back when I had eyes, I could discern a person's inner state through nothing more than observing their gaze. If you too wish to understand what resides in people's minds, begin by focusing on their eyes. Notice their gaze, where they are looking and in which direction. For instance, if someone's eyes dart around while conversing with you, it might indicate they are seeking an escape from the discussion. Similarly, if they avoid direct eye contact, it could mean they are hiding something or fear their dishonesty might be uncovered. Conversely, if their eyes lock firmly onto yours without wavering, they are likely honest, engaged, and genuinely eager to share their thoughts. Observe not just the eyes but also how the eyebrows move. If their eyebrows lower as they look away, they might be deep in thought or worried about something unrelated. Raised eyebrows paired with wide eyes may signify surprise or curiosity about what you're saying. The pupils also reveal much. Their size changes depending on emotional states. Enlarged pupils suggest excitement, happiness, or interest, while contracted pupils often indicate discomfort, dislike, or anger. Another revealing aspect is the sclera, the white part of the eye. If it appears red, it may indicate fatigue, stress, or illness, signaling that the person might be unwilling or unable to engage in conversation. I recall a certain encounter with a weary traveler whose restless gaze avoided meeting mine. His behavior suggested he was anxious and wishing to leave quickly. Intrigued by his apparent unease, I pressed him with more questions and eventually discovered he was hiding a secret plan. Beyond the eyes, other facial expressions are rich with information about a person's thoughts and emotions. It's also the second methods that I want to share with you. The face acts as a window into the soul, revealing emotions even when words are absent. For example, a slight downward turn of the mouth often signifies unhappiness, dissatisfaction, or loss. In contrast, a genuine smile, one that lifts both the cheeks and makes the eyes narrow and glimmer, is a reliable indicator of joy, warmth, and kindness. Pay attention to the subtle details of the face, the space between the eyebrows where lines deepen when someone is confused or deep in thought, a tightly pressed mouth that signals disagreement or reluctance, and a relaxed, open mouth that reflects comfort and receptiveness. As you grow attuned to these nonverbal cues, deciphering unspoken emotions will become second nature to you. Your Majesty, allow me to share an example that underscores this truth. Once, I encountered a profoundly sad individual who masked their feelings with indifference. However, a faint crease on their forehead betrayed their inner turmoil. Upon gently questioning them, they eventually opened up about their troubles. Once they unburdened themselves, they felt relieved, and I was able to offer help. Expressions extend beyond smiles and frowns. Notice how happy eyes brighten alongside an authentic smile. In contrast, furrowed brows sinking downward often reveal worry or confusion. Raised eyebrows signal astonishment or curiosity. By studying these silent signs etched on the face, whether joyful or sorrowful, one can uncover emotions hidden deep within someone's heart. Words are not always necessary to understand others. The truth is etched on their faces for anyone perceptive enough to see it. The blind brother addressed the king thoughtfully, sharing insights about a third method of understanding communication. Your Majesty, there exists yet another language, one that doesn't rely on words. It is the language of gestures and body movements. To truly grasp a person's thoughts, we must observe their hand gestures and body language. When someone speaks, you may often notice how their hands move rhythmically or instinctively, complementing their words. Their body language plays a significant role in revealing feelings and intentions that words alone cannot express. Your Majesty, our bodies and hands have an unspoken dialogue. They convey emotions and intentions in a subtle and almost secretive manner. For instance, when someone taps their fingers quickly during a conversation, that sound of urgency often signals restlessness. They might be bored, impatient, or eager to conclude the discussion. I recall meeting a man once who was nervously trying to sell me something. He exhibited this very behavior. Recognizing his apprehension, I negotiated more assertively. To his surprise, I managed to secure a better bargain. Similarly, when a person crosses their arms tightly across their chest, it may indicate reluctance or skepticism. Such an act is like erecting an invisible barrier, shielding their true thoughts and feelings. Observing this gesture teaches us to approach them with care, making our words warmer and our presence more comforting. Once they feel safe, they gradually lower their defenses and open up. On the other hand, when someone leans forward during a conversation, it conveys keen interest. By leaning in, they're signaling their eagerness to hear every word you speak. Their undivided attention reflects curiosity and a desire to learn more. I once encountered a wise teacher who embodied such focus. Though calm and composed, the way he leaned forward conveyed a hunger for knowledge about the topic we discussed. Another subtle sign to watch for is when people touch their faces while talking. This innocent gesture often betrays their inner state. They could be worried, deep in thought, or on the verge of uncovering a significant idea. Such simple yet powerful cues give us a glimpse into the workings of their minds and hearts. To truly understand someone through their gestures and movements requires patience and attentiveness. It's an art of observation that allows us to discern what isn't spoken aloud. Their hidden emotions and thoughts become like an unread book waiting for discovery. By paying close attention to these silent signals, we can connect with people on a deeper level. If we integrate all three methods of understanding, words, tone, and gestures, and interpret them carefully, we can gain extraordinary insight into a person's state of mind. We can detect the depth of their engagement with our words and uncover what lies beneath the surface of their expressions. However, achieving this level of perception requires immense focus. To observe others fully, we must free our minds from distractions, leave the past behind and set aside our future plans, so we can live entirely in the present moment. Without this mental clarity, Your Majesty, subtle gestures will go unnoticed, and the truth behind someone's body language will remain a mystery. We've heard of great saints and wise beings who could look at someone with serene composure and instantly decipher their thoughts or purpose for seeking them out. The secret behind their profound understanding is simple: their minds remain centered, calm, and singularly focused.